Hello and welcome to our What's New webinar series. As mentioned in previous sessions, this is designed to summarize and take you through the changes that have been made to Colleague as part of our latest release. In this instance, that's release 25.11.02, and that was deployed last weekend. If you'd like to ask any questions, please do so via the Q&A area in this session. It's available through Teams. If you keep the questions relevant to the session, i.e. based on the new features that have been shown, that would be ideal. This session is also being recorded, and subscribers to the What's New series, we send a copy of this session afterwards. It'll also be uploaded onto YouTube, and we'll do some social media stuff as well. All right, so let's get started. Close that off, and we'll begin just on the home page. And I'll start as we always do, just explaining just the basics. I'll ultimately post a release of Colleague. There will be a notification that's sent out to all of the users to advise that they have been upgraded. So there'll be a link here to click on that will open up our release notes, which is effectively what we're going to be working through in this session. There's also an email that goes out if you're part of the mailing list to be advised. It also gets posted out onto Twitter, onto LinkedIn, Facebook. We obviously make everyone aware that the product has been updated. There's also a blog on our website as well to advise that the system has been upgraded. In terms of the release notes, effectively they are broken down into enhancements, minor UI updates, and bug fixes. In this session, we tend to do a review of the enhancements and of the minor bits. Obviously, we don't go through bug fixes, so to speak, but they're also there in the release notes to be reviewed. But I'll go top down, and we'll start with the main update, which is all part of our AI roadmap, and that's the update to Colleague AI email templates that's delivered via Azure Foundry. So what that effectively means is on all of the email forms throughout the system, when you are either on a record or when you're running any workflow, there's now a Colleague AI template option that's available there. And what that allows you to do, obviously you've got templates as you always had for sort of set wording, if you like, that gets kind of loaded into an email form. But there's now an AI template where it's more of a prompt. So you can essentially send a prompt to the AI can respond with text that obviously then allows you to then preload that text into the message body. Okay, it's left me high and dry, so I shall try again. There we go. So we get responses that come back, and then you just hit confirm, and then that text writes into the message body. And then obviously you're then free to obviously just hit send there for the email. But in terms of how this works, within the admin area, bottom left-hand side, there is a section for templates that you go into. So if I click on templates here, that loads the different templates that we have. And there's a new template type called the Colleague AI prompt. So the Colleague AI prompt is obviously a list of the AI templates that have been set up, and this was the template that we just ran. So the prompt was write an email starting with dear merge forename. Obviously you can include merge fields in your prompt and it will pull in the relevant data, asking if that candidate is still looking for work and if they'd be interested in receiving vacancy alerts. And then I've said here, don't include a signature in response, because the AI assumes, because you're saying write an email, that you want them to be a signature, and obviously you're going to have an email signature already as part of the email. So yeah, that effectively is essentially how that would work. If you wanted to add any new templates, you would hit new template, and then ultimately on the type drop down, rather than email templates or document or email signature, you've got Colleague AI prompt. You click on that, you then choose the scope, you then should give it the description, and then you give it the wording. And obviously you've got access to merge fields to reference, but you would type in whatever is the necessary template that you want as your prompt. Fill in merge fields as you need to, and you can also decide which user groups then have access to that template. So you would tick whatever user groups. If none have been selected, then everyone will have access to it. But if it's a case that you only wanted certain users to be able to access the email template, then you would tick the emails from that particular user group to have access. Hit save, and obviously it adds it to the list. Beyond that, it's the same as any other email template. So as long if you're familiar with email templates, then from then onwards it's just the same. So when you're selecting an email, the different options that you've added there, which essentially are prompts, are preloaded in, and then you hit generate response. It sends off the request to Azure Foundry, and then it comes back with the text that it comes back. And obviously, it's a AI generated response. That's going to vary with each request as a personalized request, as opposed to always being that set wording that you obviously will use if you're using a template. Gives it a little bit more variety. So that's AI email generated content that's now available throughout the system on all of the email forms. The next one along is to do with social media links. So this is the social media view, ultimately being updated to include social media links now. So if we were going to a search result here as our example, let's say we wanted to look at some records. Previously, it would just have if they've got a profile picture, we'll just show the profile picture and then name details, but we've now got this extra row for social media, and whatever social medias you've enabled against that record obviously will be listed here with the option of then clicking on that media and it taking you through to the necessary option. Obviously, if it's the case that the record doesn't have any social media or a profile picture, then obviously just nothing appears. If it's just a case of it's just the social media, then just the social media appears. But yeah, effectively that's the main update that's been made, and that's been made throughout the system for all the summary views. Also with the browser extension as well, again the same update's been made, and the mobile UI as well. Again, we'll have that option as well that's been added there. So ultimately, it's a useful update there for the summary view in general. Just checking if there's any questions from anybody. Stuff. Okay, moving on. Next one along is the ability to configure who is the long listed by and shortlisted by when you're running that workflow. Effectively, this is for a good chunk of clients probably not a relevant piece of functionality to implement, but for those that have got administrators or resources acting on behalf of other recruiters, and you want essentially people to run workflow on behalf of other people, it's kind of that scenario that we're catering for here. So within user group permissions, you've got a section called here, long list for other users, grants ability long list and shortlist candidates on behalf of other users. And as long as that's been set, that'll be set to no access for as part of the rollout. But if it's set to full access, then when you're in a requirement and you're running that workflow at any point, so for example, if we were shortlisting this candidate, it would, rather than just shortlisting the candidate and the person that's running the workflow being the person that's, from a stats perspective, assigned the stat for shortlisting that candidate, instead it gives you this option of just saying which user has actually shortlisted them, and you can hit OK there, and then that is the user that is assigned as the shortlisting user for that candidate. So in terms of the shortlisted by, it's against that user. In terms of the history, again, it's then assigned against that user. So it's a case of, it's as if that user ran that workflow, and it allows to accommodate that user being assigned to those stats. And that's the same for long listed by or short listed by. So once that's enabled, if you were doing long listing a candidate, select on anyone. Again, you just have this long listed by option that's there. And that's if you're doing it from a requirement, but also from a candidate record, from a candidate job search, or candidate search result. Basically anywhere where you're running that workflow, it will run that process. So that's the long listed by. The next one is the exact match check, and this is really sort of not very easy to demonstrate it as such, but ultimately, if you're running a search for someone and it found, let's say you were running a search for let's say Daniel. I don't have an example there, but yeah, if you had an example, if you've got someone that's say Daniel, but they've typed in Dan, or you've got someone that's Stephen and they've typed in Steve, or Robert and they've typed in Rob. Ultimately, the exact match check was exactly that. It was an exact match. Whereas what the check has done now is it's accounting for the forename, basically having a shortened version of that name. So it's still going to be looking for the first name and surname and email address or mobile number, making sure those are exactly the same. But with the first name, it will now allow, as a kind of begins with option, it will account for just that initial prefix of the name, just so that, you know, for those scenarios where people have got shortened first names, it picks up on that, as well as see if someone types in their full name as well. The next one along is on requirement candidates. This is the candidate mobile number, and that is enabled now as a click to dial. So again, if we go back to that requirement record that we had, that example, candidate mobile number is an option that you can select off the options toolbar option. If you click on that and select the candidate mobile number, it can be included. This previously was just their number, but now it's a number that you can click on. I don't know if you see that bottom left hand side, probably not, but yeah, effectively it's obviously, if I can't click on this, obviously they'll start making an outgoing call, but yeah, effectively these are prefixed now in a way so that you can make those calls. We plan on making that update elsewhere in the system as well, when there's numbers ultimately listed, phone numbers listed in these search results, making them so that you can just click on them to make the outgoing call. Email form updates is the next one. So when you're on a record using the email form, that's slightly changed. First thing to note is that the BCC field is now hidden by default. Just emulating what happens in Outlook, really. There's a BCC, show BBC button that's on the right hand side here. So if you wanted to use the blind carbon copy, you just click on that and it would load the BCC there now. But also when you load the email form, we did that because we wanted to make the template options available as standard outside of advanced options. So template options are now always there, so that you don't have to go obviously looking for them. Using templates is fairly common activity, common behavior, and obviously you've got the AI templates in there now as well with them side by side. So template options will be freely available outside of advanced options, and the show BCC option is obviously there. Those are the two key email form updates that have also happened as well. Parse requirements submenu. So this previously was just a flat list showing all these parser options. We've now embedded them into a submenu for parse records. We've done it so that it's retained all the functionality. So if you were dragging and dropping and dropping a document onto this view, it will then prompt this submenu to appear. Obviously, if you just click on it, you can then obviously click on these options and then it will load the necessary forms as you expect. If you were doing it from, so if I was doing it from a LinkedIn profile or doing it from a document, let's say, like that, and I was dragging and dropping that onto the view, do it from example. As we drag and drop it onto here, you can see that it would then open up the parse CVs option, as you can see there. So the ability to drag and drop documents into the UI is still there. It will just load the parse records submenu. Pardon me. Okay. The next one along is the candidate and contacts portal updates that were made. So for those that aren't aware, there's a candidate portal that's available in Colleague or from Colleague. If I log into this candidate as an example, this is with the idea that the candidate is given credentials. They log in to a portal which is branded as per your branding, and ultimately they have a means to update their records, add skills, documents, checklist items, placements, in terms of adding timesheets and expenses. They've obviously got a means to do that as well. So we continue to refine this area based on feedback from clients, but this area obviously updates on a regular basis based on requests. So there was firstly a request, a global setting, which is about whether or not the candidate could complete a checklist item. So if I go to admin, go to global settings, it's the portal. And there'll be an option in here, allow completion of checklists in portal. So at the moment that's set to no. So if I was in the candidate portal and I went to checklists, select any of these checklist items, you notice there's not a complete option that the user can do. So they could just edit, the candidate could do, sorry, they could just edit the checklist item as you'd expect. But if that was set to yes, refresh that record, go to checklists, you can see that checklist item, that mark as complete option is there. Also, if you click on the tick option that's available, you can see mark as complete is available there, which they could then click on to complete that checklist item. Put on mark as complete as the document is mandatory. Right, so that's an example of that setting in play. But yeah, effectively you'd have the means to complete checklist items by ticking on them. Next one along is, on this same one, you've got additional view placements yes no options available from the candidate portal details. So on the candidate record from this portal, you can see here, so on the candidate record view details, you've got portal details there. You click on that, and obviously you've got a means then for different settings. So one of these settings is view placements. Again, at the moment, if I go onto this candidate, they can see the placements associated there. I set that to no, and then refresh. Then you can see the placements option has been hidden now, so they can't see placements. So you can turn on placements either at a global level for all candidates to see, but you can also now turn it off at a candidate level as well, so that some candidates can see placements, or more to the point, can have the ability to submit timesheets to placements, whereas others do not. The show in portal tick box as well, whether or not that's essentially ticked by default is now a setting. So again, this is the show in portal tick box there. Again, that at the moment is set to no. So if you're on a candidate record, you are adding a new document, that show in portal option is not ticked by default. If that was set to yes, then when you are adding a new document to a record, that show in portal option would be default to yes. I mean, in reality, you want it to be default to no, and it be an optional thing to decide on a per document basis. But obviously, by setting it to no, you obviously get that functionality now, whereas previously it would just remember what you previously chose. Next one is a global setting on whether or not the candidate can download documents from the record. So again, there's just allow documents to be downloaded from the portal. I've got that set to yes. So if I go to here, go to documents, select a file, you've got download documents available there, and that obviously just works as you expect it to. Allows the user to be able to download the file. But if it's a case that you just want them to have like visual of the documents that you're storing, and also the ones that based on whether or not they're visible to show in portal, then you can have that option turned off. So you could set this option to no, and then again, if we refresh, that kind of record documents, select there, and obviously that download document option isn't there to be seen. So those are the options that have been added, and again, we continue to add to that area. Right, that search bar added to report maintenance. This is a kind of minor update, but ultimately within the reports maintenance area. I mean, the reports maintenance area is where you would define against each user group which reports that person can see. Previously, you've had to just sort of scroll down through the reports and sort of go looking for them. You've now got a search bar, so you can just type in, I don't know, say you were looking for a certain report, you could just type in that report, and it just helps save time in that regard. It's a sort of a contained search, basically. Next one along is the user group added to the user menu. Again, this is just a minor thing, but yeah, effectively from the user setting, top right hand side, user group is now there as well. It's just so that there's a quick way of seeing which user group that user is in. It just sort of shows that there. That's purely what it's doing. And then we get into bug fixes, which is just a general list of items. I mean, it's fair to say that following the last release, which was the introduction of the requirement parser, there's been a fair amount of work done there based on feedback. So that's ultimately worked through. There's also been a fairly decent update with regards to parsing a document for candidates and contacts, and it basically looking out for social media links within the parsed document, within the document that you're searching through. That's significantly better now. So if you're parsing a CV and there is a, if I do it as an example, if you're parsing a CV and there is a LinkedIn profile URL as the example, but it could also be Twitter, I suppose, or Zing. But ultimately, if you've got a URL to do with social media within that CV, then within the contact section, it's going to include those URLs that were mentioned within those documents. It was previously pretty bad at finding that, so that's a significant improvement with regards to making sure that the social media URLs are being found now. The rest of them, again, are just feedback from things that have been found and updates that have been made. Okay, I mean, that's basically us going through top down what was in the build. If I give you a quick heads up on what we're currently working on, hopefully I don't regret this. If the dev guys are midway through something as this is going on, but yeah, effectively you've got an ability to effectively what we're adding is firstly an upgraded version of jQuery, which is just another way of saying that the underlying code behind the system is being upgraded to the most kind of performance optimal language, and also ultimately as part of that we're making sure that the functionality within the system utilizes that. But another key update that we're doing at the moment is to do with data tables. So we are updating data tables, which are basically these table structures throughout the system where it's incorporating data tables. And what we're doing is making sure that it loads with all the functionality that's available from the later version of data tables. So this is things like the ability to update the width of columns, the ability to drag and drop It will be updated gradually. It might not all be part of one big release, but it will give us lots of different options with regards to further changes to, for example, at the moment the options takes you to a different page. This newer version data table should give us an ability to configure that real time within the page. And there's lots of other exciting things that are happening there. But just as a key update, that's going on. Another big update, which I can't really demonstrate, is to do with Teams, where we've got a significant integration that's happening with Teams, which will mean that if you're using Teams as your telephony solution, those team calls will be able to be logged automatically within Colleague, inbound and outbound. And effectively transcription is also available as well, so we can have that. The transcription would be an attached HTML file to the history log that would be made as part of logging history calls. So yeah, when calls are made, there'll be a history log there, and obviously the transcript of the call based on settings and permissions and the usual kind of things that are obviously in place for emails already. But that covers the update for November, and a bit of a heads up in terms of what's being done in December. But obviously we'll be back for the new year with another what's new, and obviously the release notes that are associated with that build when it's deployed. Effectively, have a great Christmas, and thank you for all your support, your feedback, working with us throughout the course of this year, and same again next year. Thanks again for your time. Take care. Bye-bye.